Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. That is Tuesday, November 21, 2023, 8 a.m. First thing we're going to do today is start with prayer and pledge of allegiance. And we have the GOP chaplain with us today, Jeff King. If you could start us off, we'll get going.
Blessed are you, Lord God, sovereign King of the universe, who girds Israel with might. We thank you, Lord, for being here, listening to us, watching over us. You said whenever two or more are gathered in your name, there you are in their midst. So we know you're here, Lord. You're watching and listening to everything we say and do. All of our hearts are laid bare before you, O Lord. We consider your word as the ultimate authority in this place, Lord. We worship you here. We bless you, Jesus. We glorify your name. You're the King above all kings. You're the Lord above all lords. We ask that you have your way in this meeting and that you would use your word, like you said in Hebrews 4:12. The word of God is sharper than any two-edged sword, able to divide asunder between soul and spirit, between bone and marrow, to discern the thoughts and intents of our hearts. That you would use your word to guide us and direct us, Lord, and that you would have your way in every decision that's made in this room, Lord, that all decisions would be of you. And you said, you know everything about us, Lord. You know more than we know about ourselves. You know every hair on our head. You know when we rise up, you know when we lay down, and you know everything about us, Lord. Our hearts are yours, and guide us and direct us, and give every commissioner in this building discernment from you, Lord. Give them wisdom, and all of our law enforcement officials as well, Lord, that they have to make heavy decisions sometimes, Lord. Their lives may be in the balance of what they decide to do, Lord. And we thank you for the veterans you've given us that have provided freedom in this country, Lord. Thank you for the men and women that have laid down their life so we could be free. We love you, Father, and we just ask you to have your way in this meeting, that you would accomplish everything that you have purposed in your heart to be done in this meeting today. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Okay, you please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the States of America, to the republic for which it stands, nation. All right, thank you. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Miss Cosby. Here. Mrs. Ebel. Here. Mr. Zylstra.
Here.
Mr. Bonema.
Here.
Mrs. Curran. Mrs. Rhodey. Mr. Belknap.
Here.
Mr. Bergman. Mrs. Minema. Here. Mr. Moss.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, wonderful. Well, we have kind of a unique day today. We have an adoption day ceremony coming up here at 8:30. Next up on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Could I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Support. Mr. Chair.
Yeah,
Just
Commissioner
quick
Zylstra.
question. I know there's been a variety of agendas out.
So you'd like a quick update?
Well, yeah, you can do that. And I just have a specific question. Maybe you'll answer it.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So there was an update made adding item, let me find it here. 8B, that's a resolution regarding the vacant seat in District 6. So due to the short timeline, that was done since Friday when the agenda came out. Yep.
No, I had a specific question then about the FY24 agreement for MSU extension. I don't see that here. I know we passed it out of committee.
Yes, that was pushed to next week.
Okay. Is there any specific reason for that or?
No, but administration is in some discussions with them.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, anything else? All in favor of approving the day's agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. So now we're on to the adoption day resolution. 5A, a resolution to declare Tuesday, November 21, 2023 as Michigan Adoption Day in Ottawa County. I understand this happens annually. Could I get that suggested motion from someone here?
So moved.
Second.
All right, so that motion is to approve and authorize the board chairperson and clerk register to sign the resolution declaring Tuesday, November 21, 2023 as Michigan Adoption Day in Ottawa County. With support and second, is there any discussion? All right, well, thank you for the flexibility and we moved this up in the agenda so that we can recess after it's passed and go across the parking lot and attend the event. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, that motion carries. All right, so we've made it to 5B. I would look for a motion to recess the meeting so the commissioners can attend the adoption day ceremony at 8:30.
So moved.
Support.
Right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, all opposed? The motion carries. And we'll be in recess for approximately an hour, maybe, right around there. Okay, welcome back, everyone. I'm going to call this meeting back to order. Had a great time at the Adoption Day ceremony, and it'd be nice if we make that an annual tradition. Okay, we are up to item 6, public comment. Is there anyone here who would like to address the board?
We have one, which was Rebecca Patrick, Allendale Township.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'd like to urge you to take this opportunity today to end the uncertainty over the situation with Ottawa Food by means of a budget adjustment at today's meeting. I think it's reasonable to say that most residents of Ottawa County aren't as interested in a back and forth about it as much as they are interested in getting the program funded. You alone have not only the opportunity, but also the power to solve this problem for all of us immediately in a clear and decisive manner. So I urge you to take and use this opportunity, and in doing so, to give opportunity to others in our community who really could use it. It would make a great addition to our list of things to be thankful for this week. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Morning, Dave Moore in Allendale Township. The thing I'd like to address is closed session. Being a former trustee, I understand why closed session exists. To give the board an opportunity to discuss things, negotiate in a less hostile environment, at least from the outside appearance looking in, where they can roll up their sleeves and bare their hearts and be able to determine a good path forward. That's what it's supposed to be for. And even for a little bit of argument and even some hostility, if so be. But it should be done out of the eyes of the public. Recently, I was very disturbed when I started seeing activity that said what was going on behind closed doors and confirmation by some board members. I believe this to be, I thought it was illegal. But if it's not, it shoots in the foot the whole reason for going into closed session. Because what you do is you're just letting one side or one opinion get broadcast as a narrative to everybody. And they expect that's the truth. And we know the media has a hard time with producing the truth. So I challenge you, although as difficult as life can be sometimes, I don't believe closed session is a good state or a good place to go because you're not getting the whole truth. And even if it's difficult to sit in that chair and do what you got to do, trust me, the truth is what needs to come out. I have a lot of opinions, but I really dislike the sliminess and sleaziness that goes on sometimes. I know life is difficult and the decisions you have to make is difficult, but that's why you were elected. And everybody, I'd remind them, you were elected. You represent us, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address the board?
Good morning, James Kelly, MSU Extension District Director. I'll change the tone a little bit for 1 minute. First of all, my apologies that I haven't come up to a public meeting earlier to introduce myself to the rest of the board, but I have been filling in as the District Director on an interim basis for 5 or 6 months now. I'm excited to introduce Scott Korpak, who will be taking on the permanent position as our MSU Extension District Director for District 7. So there are 4 counties that he will have oversight over. This is Scott's second day today, so I'm throwing him in the deep end. But I've asked Scott just to share maybe 30 seconds about his background, and I appreciate your time.
Yes, thanks for the time for the moment to share. I'm so excited to be here, to be a part of MSU Extension, to be of service to Ottawa County. I've spent 30 years as a K-12 educator, and now I'm starting the second act, and very thrilled to do so. So look forward to meeting each of you.
And I should add, we have a meeting scheduled on December 7th at 3 p.m. downstairs. At the moment, Allison and Gretchen made it to that prized invitation list, but I do want to expand that if there are folks who want to come and join us. The goal with that meeting is to provide a little more insight into the kind of the width of our services and give you a chance to ask some questions. So I will share my email address, or I've sent some emails to Jordan recently, so perhaps he can share that with you if you want to join us on that day. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, James. Welcome, Scott. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board? Okay, seeing none, I would look for a motion to accept the consent resolutions.
So moved.
Second.
All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, that motion carries. I will move to 8A. Action request for the amended 2023 Ottawa County apportionment report. There is a suggested motion to approve the amended 2023 Ottawa County apportionment report. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
Okay, motion and support. Any discussion? Seeing none. We need to do a roll call on this one? No, okay, great. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Okay, 8B, resolution to fill a vacant seat. There's a suggested motion to approve and authorize the board chairperson and clerk register to sign the resolution regarding the appointment of a county commissioner in District 6. Could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Support.
A motion and support. Is there any discussion? Commissioner Zylstra.
Hey, quick, and you may, we're gonna take this up, but what is the process again? Is there gonna be something on the website?
Yes, yeah, it's actually in the resolution. So if you'd like, I could pull it up real quick and,
Yeah, let's do that.
oh, it looks like Commissioner Rhodey may have it already. So you want to go through it a little bit?
Yep, I have it. So why don't we just go ahead and read it?
Sure.
Okay, so I'll skip the whereases, but the resignation of Commissioner Kyle Terpstra, Commissioner of District 6 of the Ottawa County Board of Commissioners, precincts 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17 of Georgetown Chartered Township, having caused a vacancy for District 6 on the Ottawa County Board of Commissioners for the term ending December 31, 2024. The Ottawa County Board of Commissioners is thankful for Commissioner Terpstra's years of service and wishes him and his family the best. Pursuant to MCL 46-412, it is the duty and responsibility of the Ottawa County Board of Commissioners to fill the vacancy within 30 days. It being the consensus of the Board of Commissioners that qualified candidates to fill the vacancy in the 6th Commissioners District of the Ottawa County Board of Commissioners can be best and on a most timely basis evaluated and selected under MCL 46-412 by an orderly process of public notice of the vacancy through the acceptance of written applications to fill the vacancy with a process of selected interviews and through a final determination by the Ottawa County Board of Commissioners. The Ottawa County Board of Commissioners determines and declares that the 6th District Commissioner seat of the Ottawa County Board of Commissioners is vacant for the remainder of the current term ending December 31. Is that enough
24?
explanation? Yep, 2000.
Why don't you keep
24.
going? There's a
Okay.
few more details on the process in here as well.
Okay. Pursuant to the provisions of Michigan law, MCL 46-412, it's the intention of the Ottawa County Board of Commissioners to fill the vacancy in the 6th District seat by the selection of a qualified candidate to fill that seat, and the selection process and determination to be completed on or about December 12, 2023. That application should be submitted by 9 a.m. on Monday, December 4, 2023. During a special meeting on or about December 5, 2023, the Ottawa County Board of Commissioners will vote to determine which candidates to interview. All applications will be provided to the Ottawa County Board of Commissioners prior to the special meeting on or about December 5, 2023, and all applications will be included in the packet for the special meeting. Interviews will be conducted during a special meeting of the Ottawa County Board of Commissioners on or about December 7, 2023. The Ottawa County Board of Commissioners requests and directs the county administration and the Ottawa County Clerk to post notice of the vacancy and the application process in appropriate places throughout Ottawa County and within District 6 of Ottawa County. The Ottawa County Board of Commissioners requests and directs the county administrator to work with the Ottawa County Clerk and the board chairperson to assure the completion of the appointment process on or about December 12, 2023. All resolutions and parts of resolutions insofar as they conflict with this resolution are hereby repealed to the extent of such conflict.
Thank you. Any questions or?
Well, I guess just practical terms. So there'll be a place on the website where people can submit their applications or how?
Yep, there
email?
will, and that will be expected in the notices that either the clerk's
Okay.
office or administration
All right,
puts
great.
out.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And if anyone cannot submit an application online, then they could always submit, in person at the clerk's office.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Yep. So this process is pretty similar to the one that was created in 2016 when there was a vacancy, and I uses that as a template. Goes a little further, I believe, in that all of the decisions in this process are going to be done at open meetings and in the public. 2016, I believe there were 12 candidates, and someone or a group of someone's made a determination somewhere to interview 4. So to be a little more clear on, who can be interviewed or who will be interviewed, we're going to do that at an open meeting. And so we encourage the public, people in District 6 to stay engaged and to apply if they are so interested. Anything else? All right. All in favor of this motion, please say aye.
Aye.
And all opposed? And that motion carries. So we are up to, let's see, number 9. We do not have any committee reports today. So let's go to number 10, public comment. Do we have any additional public comment?
Online.
Do we have anyone online? We do have one person here in the room, so why don't you come forward, state your name, you have 3 minutes to address your comments to the chair.
It probably won't take 3 minutes. My name is Jim Kuiper. I live in precinct 5 of Holland Township. I just want to speak briefly to the press release that was recently published regarding the Ottawa County Administrative Health Officer. I've read it, and I just want to say thank you for the clear definition of what's going on. And I hope that it can get widespread published and recognition. And I hope that the people of Ottawa County have adequate access to this press release to get a clearer picture of what's actually going on. There's a lot of innuendo. Am I too close to the microphone? A lot of comments and feelings, and a lot of that is due to the fact that I believe the public does not really understand what's going on, and I appreciate the fact that we have now before us a clear definition of the process and the details. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here who would like to give comment? We'll go to the online comments.
Looks like we have Megan Ryan. Megan, if you can please unmute yourself. Megan, are you available? Right, we will move on to number 2. Adria. Adria, you are unmuted and can begin when you are ready. All right, we'll move on to number 3, which is Joe Spalding.
Hello, please allow me to introduce myself. I'm a man of wealth and taste. My name is Joe Spalding. I'm calling from Holland Township. You guys are in a bit of an interesting situation when it comes to that pending litigation and the settlement, because the claim that your lawyer is trying to make is off the wall. Like, Joe, you don't come out there and say we're going to accept counsel's recommendation on settlement negotiations and then make a motion for it at the end of closed session unless you've come to a conclusion inside of that room. Otherwise, you just come out and extend the recess like you did at the last one. It's laughably not okay. But the thing about that is you're going to have to end up finding a way to settle anyway. And now you're going to have to settle on the walk back because you've got, as our county administrator, John Gibbs right there, is a walking perjury trap. And that happened when he decided to lie under oath. And he absolutely did, saying he didn't remember things that happened just a little bit ago. There's a 0% chance that he remembers the answers to all of Coleman's questions in that hearing and answers, I don't recall, I don't know, I don't remember, I don't really know, like 79 times. And in fact, if you watch the video of it, there are times in that testimony when he's getting questioned where he says, I don't know. He gets asked the same question and then he proceeds to respond because he does know. So we've got this walking perjury trap right there. And I don't know what you guys have in your emails when it comes to discovery, but even if you didn't have a bunch of creepy and horrifying stuff about the things you were planning to do to our county, you still have John Gibbs there who will 100% without a doubt perjure himself if he goes up on stand. And if it's a civil proceeding, he doesn't get to waive that his Fifth Amendment. He didn't get to use his Fifth Amendment right to not incriminate himself. He gets compelled to testify for real. So I hope you enjoy the trap you're in. We have a way out for Ottawa County voters. That recall, we submitted our signatures. We've approved over 2,600 of them. Or the county approved over 2,600 of them, and it's looking like we're headed to a recall election in May, which, by the way, is what you guys should be doing with District 6 in Kyle Terpstra's seat. That should be going to a special election. You know how unpopular you are. Ottawa County knows how unpopular you are. And if you put on the farce of saying that you can exercise the will of the voters in District 6 by a decision of this Board of Commissioners, you're kidding yourselves. But you can't. I mean, you're not going to be able to weasel your way out of the next election. So enjoy that trap too.
Thank you. Is there anyone else online? Is there anyone else in person? Welcome.
I see another hand.
Welcome, Dave.
Dave Moore, Allendale Township. Since the health department seems to be an issue today, I'm going to opine. I've done a lot of contemplating and have a few facts I would like to bring up. Back in August of 21, this previous board was chosen to no longer continue to serve by the people. They implemented a new board as a group. The previous people that sat in your seats, needless to say, were not impressed. And I've dealt with them more than once. And some of the ones on board now. I found them to be despicable and what drives them to be horrible. I believe they intended to cause as much chaos and destruction for this community as they could because they were rejected. So I look at what happened. This board received before they were a board, a resignation letter, at least some of the new ones did, from Mr. Van Essen. Only to say, oh, I didn't resign. December 13th, the previous board at their last meeting, which was supposed to be their second to last meeting, implemented a new health department head. And despite what the press writes, she was not in charge during COVID. A previous department head was. So to say that Ms. Hamley was being attacked because of COVID would be a lie, because she was not in the position. But she was given the job, I don't think legally, but that's a whole nother issue. So over the last 10 months, we got to see what kind of a job she does with that department. I believe a true department head would understand, first of all, they were work for the people of which you were appointed, meaning she works for the board. And second would be the department. And lastly would be herself. I've seen many department heads lay their lives down for the people that they work with or the people that they work for. And I believe that's character. I believe over the last 10 months, she has proven to be anything but qualified to do the job with her lack of ability to take clear directions from this board and to do what's best for this community instead of broadcasting fear and dispute and chaos. I do believe the previous board actually did Ms. Hamley wrong by appointing her on the 13th. And actually, I believe a person that knew how politics works would have known better than to even take the job. I also remember a time when I came here to get him in and the door lights were dark, the door was locked, and Ms. Hamley's attorney was here. And one of the board members was conversing with them. And I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Closed session is a place where that's supposed to happen. And I'm
Thank
just
you.
speaking facts. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to address the board?
Want to give Adria? Oh, got someone in the audience.
Yeah.
Go ahead. No.
Hi, Sheila Detloff, Holland Township. You do have an item on the agenda today for the administrator's report. I don't see him here. I don't know if you plan to change the agenda for that or if he's just going to pop in, but I do have something to say about the discussion on Ottawa food. I brought Dramamine with me today to prepare for the spin. I don't know if I'll need it now. Anyway, fact, John Gibbs attacked the Public Health Department for a statement that was actually released by the Ottawa Food Advisory Board. I'm not sure if John was being willfully ignorant on that or just ignorant, but either way, it doesn't lend much confidence in our administrator. Fact, John and you cut 48% of the health education and nutrition line item. Fact, John implied the replacement funding could be found by eliminating condom cupcakes and by not teaching bartenders how to avoid overserving alcohol to patrons. I don't know where he buys his condoms or his cupcakes, but I think maybe he needs a new vendor if he's paying that much for them. Fact, John repeatedly has stated there will be a solution to this and repeatedly refuses to actually offer one or meet with the health department to figure one out. Bottom line, if I cut 50% of your budget for Thanksgiving dinner, you're going to have to give something up. You're not Jesus. You can't multiply the loaves and fishes. If you want to stop the bad PR, maybe you just need to stop doing things that cause it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
It looks like there is two more that raised their hands. So we'll start with Adria.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
We
Yes.
can.
Awesome. Adria Hill, Holland Township. Impact is defined as the force of impression of one thing to another. It can be positive. For example, when a teacher brings out the best in a child, we would say that teacher has a great impact on the student. But it can also be negative, like the forceful impact involved with a car crash. Each of you decided to run for county commissioner because you wanted to positively impact our community. And there are certainly some examples of work that has helped maintain the good government services that residents have come to expect, such as improvements to our parks and collaborative efforts to comply with new early voting mandates. Unfortunately, some of your actions better reflect that of a chain reaction car crash, where your decisions have caused other groups to decrease the services provided. It is now being reported that the decrease in funding to the health department is causing Ottawa Food to close locations in Hudsonville, Spring Lake, and Georgetown. I know that is not what you wanted. However, the budget you passed is having a negative impact on our residents. I suspect that as time continues, we will see more impact from your decisions. It could be a decrease of overall community health, an increase in emergency mental health hospital visits, or an unfavorable negotiating position as a result of potential settlements. I know that some of these consequences are not what you intend. All of you agreed that you did not want to see the Ottawa Food Program impacted by budget cuts. This reminds me of 1 John 3:18, which says, "Dear children, let us not live with words or speech, but with actions and truth." You hold the power to make more positive impacts over the next 13 months. You have the opportunity to put your words into action in order to maximize the positive impact you have on our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Then we have one more, Megan Ryan. Megan, you are unmuted. Can you try speaking?
Okay, is there anyone else in person? We'll move on to additional business. Okay, thank you. So 11A is administrator's report. Today, the administrator is away traveling. So we'll move on. We're going up to 11B, discussion on reduction of services of Ottawa Food. So I will open this up for discussion. And I believe Ben has some information, a new deputy administrator. If you'd like to start, Ben, that'd be great.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have prepared the document that's being handed out to Ottawa Food, just the facts, which covers a variety of issues and I think misinformation that has arisen about the Ottawa Food Program, including the status of grants and the status of programs that are being offered to the public. I think part of the confusion about the program and the effect of the program has come from some media reporting that has focused on cuts as impacting services. And according to Ms. Hambley, this position that was affected is a community convener and is a coordinator between the different groups and constituent stakeholders within the Ottawa Food Program, and that no programs have been affected. So a lot of the discussion and the frame on this issue has led people to conclusions that are not supported, I believe, by the facts. Ottawa County does fund several people across multiple different organizations that are active in combating Ottawa County hunger. The Community Action House is one, Community Spoke is another one. And of course, within the health department, there was some funding that was impacted by Ms. Hambley's reallocation and reassignment of a staffer to other purposes. So these are covered in the memo that has been handed out. I'm happy to answer questions about this. And if there are additional questions after the meeting, we're of course happy to answer or address those as they come up.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Deputy, have you met Miss Ugansky in the back of the room yet?
No, I have not.
Oh, Miss Ugansky, could you come up? I think it would be great that if you would speak a little bit to this issue, and then maybe you could get together after the meeting and sort this out, because I think we want to see solutions here rather than the back and forth. We want to just put this thing to rest where the people of our county are taken care of. So if you could address some of the things you heard this morning, that'd be great.
Sure. I don't know if there are specific questions. Like I shared when I was here in, I believe earlier September, it was before the September 26th vote. I talked a little bit about how with substantial cut to health education, it would be impossible to continue the Ottawa food program as it is currently looked. Starting in 2011, Ottawa County has started funding the Ottawa food coordinator position, and it has stayed that way until just this year, until just this new fiscal year. And so I guess I'm wondering if there are specific questions that you guys do have, because as that convener that you mentioned, I think all of the Ottawa Food members would agree that without that position, Ottawa Food struggles to exist and be as effective and efficient as it would without it. And as you probably heard, over 70% of Ottawa Food members voted to take a pause because this position was essentially eliminated when the budget was cut. And so that wasn't a decision of the health department. That was a decision of Ottawa Food and its members, because they know that without this position, those programs can't continue to happen. So I know you received a lot of information about the gleaning programs, the large amounts of food that are rescued in this community. And those programs don't just happen, but it's a coordinated effort. And without a paid person to do that work, it's virtually impossible to have the same effects.
Sure, I have a quick question.
Sure.
Can you kind of just review the gleaning program for everyone so we can have a good understanding of it?
We have a couple different programs. I'm going to back up just a bit. We started a produce donation program years ago where Ottawa Food members and volunteers from different member agencies will set up at local farmers markets, and we encourage people to do a couple things. Purchase extra produce while they're there shopping from local growers. And so we are supporting local growers and then bringing that food right over to our table and donating it. So it's a huge win-win, because our growers are not just expected to donate that extra food, because we know that a lot of our growers struggle sometimes to make ends meet. And so at the same time, they're supporting our local pantries, and that food is on the shelves in pantries within about 12 to 24 hours. And that fresh food flies off the shelves if you're not familiar with food pantries and the popularity of those items. So after a few years of doing that, I think the beauty was that a lot of our local growers realized, wow, there's a lot of people in this community that are supporting us and at the same time supporting their community through this produce donation program. And so we would find at the end of the day that some of those growers were coming over and saying, here's some produce left over that I didn't sell today, but we'd also like that to go to community members in need. And so because of that, we were able to then start some gleaning programs at our local markets as well. So vendors had the option at the end of the day, if they weren't going to be selling that produce maybe the next day, or if it was a Saturday afternoon, to donate that as well. And those have just picked up throughout the county.
Great. Does the gleaning program operate during the winter as well?
I don't believe so. If it does, it's at a much smaller scale.
Okay. How about the Senior Project Fresh? I believe that's another one of the programs that was.
Could I ask
no, please wait one moment.
Milks and
Commissioner
cheeses. I'm
Bahanam.
just wondering if any of that is.
Commissioner Bahanam, please let me finish talking. Thank
Meats,
you.
milks and cheeses.
Thank you. Just wondering about the Senior Project Fresh, if that's an active project right now, or if that's also kind of suspended during the winter.
Senior Project Fresh, the actual program wraps up on October 31st, I believe. So yes, during the winter, people aren't using their vouchers per se, but we do work with partners, Ottawa Food Partners. In fact, I just dropped off a bunch of the surveys this morning at Strategic Impact because they help us with the evaluation of that program, which will take place over the next couple of months, which allows us to then look at effectiveness and efficiency of the program. And then during these winter months, we use that time to plan, or what we would be doing if we were fully funded would be looking at how we'll plan to make the program better in the next year.
Do you know when it kind of starts back up again with the gleaning and the farmers markets and things like that, approximately?
We probably start the planning and the preparation and the promoting in May, June. And it just depends when we have the most food at the market. We get excited, and then it's probably June, July when it really ramps up, August, September.
And how is this program promoted? I'm sure it has like advertising and things like that, but reaching into the community.
It depends on the year, but a lot of our partners that are involved do word of mouth, promote it through their own agency, probably use their social media accounts to promote it. I know Ottawa Food promotes it on their Facebook page.
Do you know why Ottawa Food decided to suspend these programs, even though they're not really used right now? Like, why not just look for funding over the next few months and keep the programs going?
Our budget was cut by 48% in health education, and that coordinator works year round. So it might not seem like, oh, they don't need this funding in the winter, or but these are programs, like I just mentioned, evaluation, there's planning, there's coordination, there's a lot that go into these programs. And so, for example, when I'm looking at my team over the next year, we need to be thinking about, do we have the funding to do this? And if we don't, it's something that we need to talk about now and make the community aware of now. For example, Evergreen Commons is another agency in Ottawa County that offers Senior Project Fresh. So does 4 Points in the northern part of the county. But the reason we started as Ottawa Food offering this program is we listened to our community members who told us there were not enough access points to this program. And our seniors who are extremely in need did not have access to the program. And so Ottawa Food picked up, and we started bringing this program to commodity users. So we go right to low-income senior homes, apartments, and we provide this. We remove barriers. We go all over the county, probably 12 or 13 different sites. So there is a lot of planning and a lot of coordination that goes into this. And it's not just something we can take lightly and say, oh, we can do this with half the staff that we used to have. And yes, Ottawa County Health Department, while it is an Ottawa Food Associated program, our coordinator and our health education staff provide a lot of that piece of it because it is a big undertaking in partnership with MSU Extension, who provides the nutrition education that we haven't talked about as well.
Okay. You mentioned other staff. Are there other staff that's part of the Ottawa Food program, or is it really the coordinator who kind of handles most of it?
Well, in the past, we had a health educator that focused on a lot of general wellness, chronic disease prevention programs. So she was pulled in to help when we would go out to senior programs because a lot of the participants don't want to wait in line for one person to process their vouchers when we're there. And so that health educator would come along. We also had a full-time health promotion clerk who did a lot of the back and forth, the paperwork, the registration. She would also be there those days with us. She's no longer employed with us. We didn't have the funding after the cuts to keep her. And so she retired, 30-year employee. And that other health education spot now is also vacant after the cuts. And so that's another thing we'd be looking at is what staff do we send out to do the program implementation.
So I guess I'd like to go back to my previous question. If the program is so vital and so critical, then why cut the gleaning and publicly announce it, and why cut senior project fresh, and make such a huge deal about it? Like why not come back to the board or the finance committee and report that?
We've been saying for a while that there wasn't enough money to do this.
But I'm asking a specific question. Why not come back to the finance committee or the board and explain the need and then ask for a specific amount of funding or something like that?
Well, when I was at a recent meeting, or the meeting on the 26th, the commissioners here, Commissioner Zylstra specifically said, if we're all about supporting Ottawa Food, you all said on the record that you were in support of Ottawa Food. He said, why don't we earmark the money to support them right now? And you guys voted it down.
But I guess you still didn't really answer my question, but I'll move on.
I'm sorry, what
you were
you
at
asking me to
that.
answer?
So you were asked that, you were at that meeting. Do you remember other board members speaking about Ottawa Food?
Yes. And I know that there had been questions to me about how much money would specifically be needed. And I stand by my comment at that time that the answer was complex. And at that point, I would not be able to specifically give you a dollar amount, because at that time, I did not know if our budget was truly going to be cut by 50%. And if that was the case, the person who was currently our our health educator assigned to Ottawa Food would no longer be the staff person in that position because of seniority, because of HR. I don't know if I want to say the word rules, but whatever it might be, it would have been a different person. And so if it was a point, for example, at that point, our coordinator was a 0.9 FTE. With our funding cut, the only health educator we have in health education now to cover all of our issues, suicide prevention and chronic disease prevention, all of the work that we do, we have a 0.6. So and like I said that day, it's impossible to make a 0.9 out of a 0.6. And that 0.9 would have to address more than just Ottawa Food. Because, and I asked that day, how would you guys like me to prioritize between all of these different issues? Is it more important to say, oh, we shouldn't think about suicide prevention because we need to feed people, or we shouldn't think about feeding people because we need to focus on suicide prevention? These are all critical issues in our community, and the county has the funding to support it. And that's why we've been vocal and asking for this.
So I guess if I could just kind of go back a little bit then. So you're saying, at that meeting, you didn't know the exact details. That I kind of understand, like that was one of the final budget meetings and we had been talking about that for weeks, and there's a lot of complexity. But why not come back to the finance committee as soon as you had that information?
Adeline Hambley has been in communication with Administrator Gibbs with a lot of information about the funding and about other options. For example, the potential need to close the Hudsonville office because of some of these needs that she's specifically laid out.
You're kind of changing the question.
No.
I'm asking, why didn't you, so you had a question back on September 26th. We were asking about Ottawa Food.
Right.
I believe the board was really clear in saying, like, we want to prioritize this program. If you need funding, please come back. We will make sure it's prioritized. I think that actually might have been an exact quote. So you didn't exactly know on September 26th, but then you did figure it out. And then you didn't come back to the finance committee. Is that right?
Once the cut was made.
Is that right?
Can I explain myself?
Kind of looking for a yes or a no answer, but go ahead.
No, I did not. We did not come back then.
But why not? That was my question.
Because the Ottawa Food Board, not even board, the full Ottawa Food Committee took a vote that based on the cuts that health education received and the fact that right then we did not have a 0.9 coordinator for Ottawa Food, to pause Ottawa Food operations. And so that's what happened, because Ottawa County Department of Public Health does not run quote unquote Ottawa Food.
Right.
And so just for example, the press release that was put out, that was not a health department press release. So even though the response that came back was directed at the health department and our staff, that was from Ottawa Food. That was nothing that the health department approves or makes a vote over.
So so I'm aware, and maybe the commissioners as well, the the board at Ottawa Food is comprised of 2 health department members, you being one of them.
Correct.
Community Action House has 2 members.
Correct.
Of which they receive a significant amount of funding from the county. And MSU Extension has 1 member as well, which also receives a substantial amount of funding from the county. So you're saying that the members of the county health department, MSU Extension, and Community Action House felt that it was important to cancel these programs and tell all of the members of Ottawa Food that they had to be canceled, and then, you know, shut down the gleaning and shut down the Senior Project Fresh, even though you know it's critical?
The word cancel was never used. It was pause. And that is what we're doing right now, is taking time to pause. Because we're in a situation where it's going to take time to figure out. And yeah, we can't, for example, Senior Project Fresh, we can't run a program if we don't have the staff capacity to do it. And I do also want to add that I am a member of the Ottawa Food Advisory Board, but I am a non-voting member.
Okay, so do we know who the voting members are?
Everyone else that's on the board. So
Okay.
we have a member from Shape Corporation. We have someone from our Pathways program, MSU Extension, Community Action House.
Did you make these people aware that the board wanted to make this a priority and had specifically told you in public and in writing to make it a priority?
They're aware, yes.
And so they decided to suspend the programs, tell their members that they were being paused, and then go to the media with it?
Correct. There wasn't funding to,
And
they paused based on not having a 0.9 coordinator position, and it's not available. And I didn't have the option to make that a choice because there was not enough funding in the budget to do it.
You actually were given a direct request to please come back to the finance committee, to the board, if there was a need. So did
And-
you ignore that direct request?
No, I did not. And
If you come back
our
to
health
the-
officer has been providing information about, she's been asking for weeks, and we were told to wait, that there would be funding coming. There would be a way to make it work out, and we still don't have an answer.
Do you know when she asked about the Ottawa food funding offhand?
That was rolled into part of the request for the closing of the Hudsonville office. Which was weeks ago.
That was related, or that was, but
It's
it
related
sounds like,
because the $60,000 in savings that we would have if we aren't paying for the Hudsonville office rent would be rolled into helping to increase the FTE of a health educator to hopefully help get Ottawa Food rolling again. So that was
Okay.
part of what we've been waiting on to see if that piece was going to come through.
Right. I spoke to some of the Ottawa food members, and it sounded like to me they think the programs are canceled. They don't think they're coming back, that they're told the funding is cut. You know,
Okay, I can't speak
they're
for
done.
all of the Ottawa Food members, but I know that the words we chose to use were pause. As far as Senior Project Fresh, the portion that we provide for this year, if someone was to ask me today, that is canceled because we don't have the capacity at this point to do it.
Do you know offhand how much money the county provided to Community Action House, which, you know, are voting members on the Ottawa Food Board, for full-time staff for Ottawa Food?
They don't have full-time staff, to my knowledge, that focus on Ottawa Food.
Okay. How about MSU Extension? Like, can you explain maybe their involvement? Like how they're helping Ottawa Food?
Yes, part of the Senior Project Fresh program requires us to provide some nutrition education. And so one of their nutrition educators, and has been a partner for, I think, as many years as we've been involved, comes out to some of the sites with us when they're available and provides the nutrition education to seniors prior to them receiving their vouchers.
Okay.
They also serve on gosh, over the past years, they've been involved in our work with, obviously supporting local growers, local agriculture.
So that is part of their role, yes. And so as far as I understand, Senior Project Fresh, the funding for the vouchers comes from the state. And then those vouchers are then given to people, more elderly people in the community.
Sometimes we get the funding from the state. We've also received funding from other Ottawa food partners that have been involved in our work that have then given additional funding so we can purchase more vouchers for seniors.
Nice, that's great. Do you know offhand why MSU Extension didn't pick up part of that project or continue it? I mean, they're part of Ottawa Food. One MSU Extension member is a voting member in Ottawa Food. Why they?
No, I can't speak for.
We
MSU
have
Extension.
someone from MSU Extension join us, please. Thank you, Lisa. You can take a seat, Lisa. Thank you. Welcome, James.
I was expecting this conversation next week, so I'll do my best, as you know, in my interim role.
Thank you. We can bring it back next week if we need to.
No,
That's
it's fine.
okay.
I'll share that. So I have 5 counties that I manage to the north of here, and we are involved with Project Fresh. It's a project that appears in multiple counties across the state of Michigan. We play a very similar role in the majority of counties that we support that program, and that is to provide the education portion of the program that enables them to spend their voucher more effectively and efficiently. Historically, and I'll just back up a little bit, I have been with Extension for 5 years. So I know that prior to my time, there have been instances in certain counties where we have taken the lead as an agency in that program. We have not done it in any of my current counties for many years. Could it happen in the future? Potentially. I will share that just in relation to one of your other questions earlier, that none of the county funding directly supports our community nutrition instructors. They are funded through a USDA grant through SNAP Education. So for that specific grant, there is an expectation that we're involved in community food initiatives. And I pulled some data yesterday, so I'm, forgive me if it's 1 or 2 off the official numbers, but I think we have about 161 community coalition groups, food-related coalition groups that we partner with across the state in 64 counties. So our relationship with Ottawa County is certainly nothing unique or unusual. I will say it's been, from what I understand, a very productive partnership over the years. We've been on board since the inception of Ottawa Food, one of the 45 member agencies. And yes, one of our staff sits on the advisory board at the moment.
Did you find out anything from that staff member about, the Ottawa Food Program or what kind of involvement MSU has, MSU Extension?
Yeah, I have a document actually, because in my conversation, when I noticed that we'd been pulled off the agenda on Friday, I was a little surprised, and I was on, I think, page 225 of your board packet trying to figure out if it was just an oversight in the agenda and we were in the packet. But at that moment, Administrator Gibbs called to say we had been removed from the agenda today, and could I prepare a document to outline the relationship between MSU Extension and Ottawa Food. So I have almost a final draft that I plan to send you this afternoon, kind of, again, anticipating more conversation next week.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just don't have it in front of me, but we, as was just shared, we are involved in Senior Project Fresh. We're involved in school programs. We have a role to play in just health and nutrition education in any environment, from seniors to infants to school age.
Okay, thank you. I'm sure we'll look forward to seeing that. I think part of the reason for some of the requests is looking at the different funding sources available for something like Ottawa Food. It looks like there's several different groups that are all kind of part of it. So just trying to get a good handle on what is really needed and what we need to do moving forward, and then getting that data. And I expect we'll get, more information and more data this week. And I know it's Thanksgiving, so but we'll be, working hard to come back and chat more. But thank you, James. Commissioner Zalstra.
Yeah, just trying to go through this first page that was just handed out. We've had a lot of discussion about the coordinator position. It says here the Ottawa County staff member in charge of Ottawa Food, Sierra Schutz, is still employed with the county and more than capable of continuing her role with Ottawa Food. I think there's some discrepancy in that. And I wonder if Lisa can kind of respond to that, because my understanding is that health education does not have the budget to support her. So therefore she is with the county, but not able to do her work with Ottawa Food as coordinator. So I think, you know, one of the things we talked about on September 6th was to make sure that there's funding into the health education budget to specifically be able to support her role.
Also, at that time, we didn't know the amounts either.
But we
And-
have those amounts now.
Well, but we didn't know them then.
Okay, but we
Yeah,
have them now. So I mean, we can discuss her role right now.
we do have them. Do you know if those amounts have been sent to the finance committee to be considered or anything like that?
The amounts to support.
That Commissioner Zalstra is talking about?
The information was sent to Administrator Gibbs and I believe earlier, well, actually, it was the end of last week. And those numbers that he was speaking to as far as Sierra's position, we were very fortunately able to keep her employed as a health educator, but she's no longer working in health education. She's working in environmental health. So he's correct that it's not accurate that she has the capacity to fill those duties right now, because it's grant funding that is keeping her. I just want to make that really clear, because I know there are a lot of people paying attention to these meetings, and she is working under grant funding around food safety in our environmental health department. So while there may be a small overlap, she definitely does not have the capacity right now to coordinate out of food.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Chairman.
Commissioner
Could
Zalstra.
we just have a motion then to put that to the finance committee? I know there's a lot of back and forth as whether it was, whether it isn't, whether it could have been, but why don't we just,
I'm
Yeah.
sure that the chair of the finance committee will be taking it up, and there's hopefully going to be a lot of ongoing discussion this week. Could we go to
Just a
Commissioner
couple
Cosby?
questions, and I'm kind of a broken record with these questions, but how long has Ottawa Food Program actually been in existence?
We started officially in 2011.
2011. And what in the intended purpose of the program, I'm hearing a community convener. What is,
The focus of Ottawa Food overall,
Yes.
Reducing hunger, reducing food insecurity, supporting local growers, and providing health and nutrition education to community members.
okay. And do you know how many community members you serve annually with this program?
I can give you just for fiscal year 23, 350 low-income seniors were reached, 800 migrant farm workers and their families were reached with food distribution, 480 community members through our Real Food Can Connect Us cultural cooking classes, 7,500 of our resource guides distributed throughout the community, providing information for people in need about food pantries and food distributions and things like that. Over 100 community members educated through our interactive cooking demonstrations and nutrition education. Over 1,000 families interacted at our tabling events. So receiving nutrition education, recipes, resource awareness, and 120 families served through the Holland Middle School Greenhouse Partnership with Ottawa Food. And then this doesn't necessarily mean families or households, but to just share some of the impact. In fiscal year 23, 1 million pounds of food, excuse me, were rescued through the Lakeshore Food Rescue Program. 22,000 pounds of produce and food were gleaned from the farmers markets in Grand Haven, Spring Lake, and Holland, distributed to area food pantries. 4,000 pounds of produce were purchased from local farmers to be distributed through food pantries across the county using grant funds. Over 2,000 pounds of produce were donated through the produce donation program at farmers markets and also distributed to local pantries. And 3,000 pounds of produce were donated through Pick for Pantries in 2022. And at the time of this report, the data wasn't yet available for fiscal year 23. So some of it's people served, some of it's more pounds of food distributed.
So, and that's with your community partners, correct?
Yeah, that's Ottawa Food.
Ottawa
So
Foods,
all the
correct.
partners.
So it's not with the FTEs you currently have budgeted for Ottawa Food at the health department.
This was what
That
took
you're-
place in 23 with the director or the coordinator, I would say. You know, without having a coordinator, most of those programs don't exist close to that level.
And so do you know total FTEs that you have? In what
For
those-
Ottawa Food,
Ottawa Food.
0.9 FTE,
FTE.
one person.
And so that's, because I have down here that we have 3 employees.
Well, like I mentioned earlier, we have another staff person that helped with programming, promotion, some of the running around things that happen with programs like that are countywide, as well as a clerk. But at this point, we don't have either of them. We can't support those positions at our current funding level.
So you don't have a manager or supervisor for the program currently?
For health education or for Ottawa Food?
Ottawa Food.
For Ottawa Food, the only position, I mean, I'm the manager for a department, so I oversee that health educator. But in terms of a person directly doing the programming and like when we talk about a coordinator position, it was just the 0.9 that we no longer have.
And so there's no way that you can support current education needs with the staffing that you have.
One of the things we're looking at for our current health educator, who is a 0.6 FTE, the one person that we do have in health ed right now, it's something that we're going to go back and visit in January, once Ottawa Food starts meeting again as well, or once the board has had time to meet to look at, and again, I just don't know, right? Are they going to decide to run with one program next year and all the partners try to take a piece of that? Or is each partner going to try to do their own thing? So we're going to take a look at how that 0.6 may be able to be helpful or instrumental in that work. But I wouldn't say it's going to be the majority of their work because that person is doing a lot of other health education related programming as well. And did I miss part of your question?
No,
Okay.
because this is a seasonal program. Would you say that's fair?
Ottawa Food?
Ottawa Food.
No, it's a year-long program. Some of the
Year-long,
initiatives,
but some of the initiatives are seasonal.
well, because so much of our work is around the local growing season and supporting local growers, it definitely picks up and is busier during the summer months here. But it's definitely a year-round program. I mean, addressing hunger and food insecurity never goes away. We don't stop working on that, as well as the planning for other programs. So meetings are in a typical year held quarterly for the full board, or for the full committee. And then the specific subcommittee is working on addressing hunger and supporting local growers, meet monthly throughout the year. That work doesn't change.
And so earlier you said that 70% of your partners have paused given the budget reductions.
They
Is that
voted.
accurate?
They voted to take a pause as a group.
And so of the 38 organizations that we have listed here, that's like 26 to 27 of them. Is that fair?
I'm not exactly sure how many voted, because I didn't run the vote. The other board members did. I stayed out of that. And so, I don't know exactly how many took part in the vote, but I know that 70% of the members that voted to pause.
And none of those organizations would be able to provide the education needs that we're discussing today?
For the full county, no. I mean,
They don't have educators?
I guess I can't speak for all of them, but we have met and had conversations and, I think everybody is willing to pitch in and do a little bit. I don't think any of these agencies or very few of them have specific roles around education.
Have you had an opportunity to take a look at the information that was just handed out?
No, that wasn't shared with me.
Okay. I think that might be.
I think I have a couple questions on that.
Yeah.
It looks like there's a vendor service agreement contract with Community Action House, where for the year 2023, 2024, and 2025, perhaps beyond there, the county has allocated funding for 3 full-time staff members to help Ottawa Food and Food Rescue?
Are you talking about the
are you-
ARPA funds?
Yeah, are you aware of that?
Yes.
Okay, but is that completely unrelated to Ottawa Food or what, or can you speak to that a little bit?
Those positions don't have anything to do with the coordination of Ottawa Food.
So the county gave, like, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of dollars, $500,000 for Ottawa Food, but not to help coordinate it.
It's not for Ottawa Food, it's for the Lakeshore Food Rescue Program, which Ottawa Food is a partner in.
But
But
it
that
literally,
funding does not directly provide any staff or oversight for Ottawa Food.
I mean, the ARPA documents say that the impact of this $468,000 will be for Ottawa Food. Right? Like that's how it was sold to the community. Ottawa Food and Community Action House will use this $468,000 to expand their programming, buy trucks, and hire 3 additional staff.
Right, for food rescue. But it doesn't have anything to do with the day-to-day operation and coordination of a countywide, which is essentially a local food policy council. It's supporting one of our very important programs, but
Which is suspended or paused. So we gave them $468,000 for Ottawa Food and Food Rescue, but now it's paused. Is that right?
I don't believe the money was given for Ottawa Food.
Yeah,
I believe.
I'm reading it on my screen. ARPA County Initiatives, who, what, Ottawa Food.
Okay, well, Ottawa Food, the coordination of Ottawa Food is not supplied or supported through that grant, is I guess what I can say to you. I don't think that program is being paused. In fact, I know it's not because it's run through Community Action House, which isn't Ottawa Food. We are a partner. So for example, we might not have partner agencies as engaged in that work anymore. I don't know. I can't speak for all of our partners, but I can say that the funding that Community Action House receives to do the Lakeshore Food Rescue work, which is an incredible, necessary program, none of that funding is to support the coordination and implementation of the Ottawa Food Program.
So even though that's one of the most critical parts of this program, it sounds like it's not critical enough to use that $468,000 to actually do it. Like the coordination of their program is not enough priority. So I don't know what they're going to be doing, but maybe we could find that out in the next week or so.
Well, Community Action House staff coordinates that program. It's not Ottawa Food. The paid staff through these ARPA funds are not Ottawa Food employees or staff, they're Community Action House employees. And I can say that when this funding was awarded and when Community Action House, wrote for these funds, I don't think any of us anticipated that this would be an issue in the future with Ottawa Food Coordinator funding being cut off. So I don't think this is anything that was thought about then. But again, I can say that the funding used in those positions, I mean, does that make sense? I mean, I do still have questions about that because that funding doesn't impact or affect anything that we do around the coordination of the program.
Yeah, let's go to Commissioner Rhodey.
Okay, I want to cover a few things, and Lisa, you can sit down for a second if you want.
Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah, thank
You're
you.
welcome.
So Ben, I want to review a little bit of what you've provided to us. I just think it would be good to talk about Ottawa County's generous funding of Ottawa Food. So I'm just gonna read through that section there. The claim that Ottawa Food only received $8,950 in county funding is false. Ottawa Food was provided 3 staff and significant county funding has been provided to its coalition partners. The core groups connected to the Ottawa Food Advisory Board are Community Action House, Community Spoke, and MSU Extension. Ottawa County has funded these related groups at the following levels over the past 2 years. Some of this might sound repetitive because Commissioner Moss covered it. On December 2, 2022, Ottawa County granted Community Action House $486,000 for use over 3 years specifically to manage the Ottawa Food Program, including 3 full-time staff over the period of December 14, 2022 to December 31, 2024, as well as other expenses. as you just covered in relation to the ARPA funding. In 2022, Ottawa County gave Community Spoke $70,000. In 2023, Ottawa County gave Community Spoke $45,000. MSU Extension was given $264,000 in October of 2022 and is asking for $272,000 in November of 2023. And since October 2022 alone, these core groups, which form the leadership of Ottawa Food, when you would look at the advisory board, have been given a total of nearly $1 million by the county. This raises questions about the claim that Ottawa Food doesn't have enough resources to continue normal operations. And we heard from MSU that there are some nuances there with their funding. So I guess one thing we haven't talked a whole lot about yet is Community Spoke. So we've been giving Community Spoke a significant amount of funding as well. And my understanding is that Community Spoke helps to coordinate the actions of nonprofits to help meet the needs of the community. And they're interestingly also on the advisory board of Ottawa Foods. And so I'm getting a little concerned here that we have, that we are funding organizations to be doing things that are not being done. Community Spoke is supposed to be kind of facilitating in this role, but they have been absent really from coming and speaking to the board this entire year, besides I believe January. And we're part of this decision to go to the press instead of coming back to a finance committee meeting and working through the needs that they saw were in the county when we in fact asked the health department to come back if they had needs. That didn't happen. Again, this is just very reminiscent of the whole budget process where things are taken to the media for resolution instead of being taken to the board. So personally, I'm feeling uncomfortable with maintaining a system that is not coming back to the board for assistance when needed, but is going to the press instead and finding political moments. And so I'm just thinking that, perhaps we need to pause a little bit and take some time to evaluate this situation. It's helpful to know that some of these activities, which sounded quite scary in the news that were being paused, are actually kind of seasonal. So we probably have some time to work with here. I hear that having a coordinator is very important. It's important to the nonprofits who are working in providing food to the county residents. And so I think it is important that we look at that need and that we address that need. But I think perhaps we need to look at who is overseeing that person and this whole food project, because having food for our people, especially people in need, is really important. And it's not a political game. And so we need to have reliable people making good decisions and accessing the board when they need help as appropriate and using appropriate process. And that's just not been happening. So I would like for us to consider, taking a little time to think through some of these relationships that we have with providers like Community Spoke, and even having Ottawa Foods underneath the health department. Perhaps we need to look at reallocating some of those funds to something different. Maybe we need to look at creating a Department of Family Impact where we could ensure that important initiatives and positions are not affected by political actions, but that proper process is used and that needs are truly being met. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you, Commissioner Rohde. I definitely agree.
Items that I think we need to pay attention to is there are 38 organizations, partner organizations with Ottawa Foods. They're as a collaborative, and they have a total revenue or budget of $220 million. I mean, that's almost our budget.
And that doesn't include the organizations that have chosen not to be part of Ottawa Food. There are organizations that reportedly have declined to be part of the program for multiple reasons.
And even when I asked about number of community members served, I approximated 15,000 for your middle schoolers, but rounded to about 26,000. That's $8,800 a piece. I would love to see outcomes. I would love to see outcomes to that spend.
Ben, do you have anything
ma'am.
additional there? Or
Mr. Chairman, not more than what's in the proposal. I think that there's several points of confusion that may have led to this misunderstanding. Part of that was from the media. Part of that was from maybe a lack of clarity about what the Ottawa County health educator's job was to perform. Part of it, I think, is the nature of the Ottawa Food Program, which is really a coordinator position and not a service provider, since the constituent organizations are the ones really providing the services. So I think, unfortunately, those confusions have led to misunderstandings, and we will try to address all of the questions in a follow-up brief that will further answer these questions and investigate some of the other areas that you all have directed to us to pursue.
thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you, sir.
Is there anything additional? Commissioner Zylstra?
Yeah, so I guess I'm a little bit confused. I mean, Commissioner Obama did bring this to us. He asked for an agenda item to be placed on this this meeting's agenda. And I briefly mentioned the fact that, you know, maybe we could have a vote to place it on finance if that's the wish of the board. So I think as far as process, there's avenues for us to address this. You know, we can go back and forth as to why this didn't happen 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, but we have the options right now to take care of this.
Okay.
Second point is just, I guess I'm still kind of confused about looking at this last paragraph again. I think we're all on the same page that Ottawa Food needs a coordinator. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think reading this text it definitely makes the assumption that what Sarah Schutz does for Ottawa Food is important, and it's important to maintain that work. There's been some discussion, maybe somebody else can take up, you know, the financial responsibility for that coordinator role. I think as Ottawa County, I think we have the resources to do that. You know, she has been paid out of other parts of the public health budget, and as Ms. Ugansky said, out of grant funding, not sustainable in the long term. Again, I would encourage us to place it on the finance agenda for next finance, that we can go through it, finally make the assessment. And if the deputy administrator wants to put another brief together for us, you know, hopefully with the participation of the public health and with Sierra herself, I think that'd be very helpful for us. So we can kind of make this determination once and for all is, you know, is the coordinator position something that's useful, which I think we all agree on. And it is something that should be, you know, supported by Ottawa County itself, which I also agree on.
Thank you, Commissioners Zylstra and Deputy Administrator. If one thing maybe you could bring back with the, you know, more information next week, I'd like to understand better the 3 staff members that are working with Community Action House. You know, we don't really know much about what they're doing. That would be helpful, you know, if they have any capacity, that kind of thing. If they're interested in maybe helping coordinate, that'd be another question. That'd be great. Commissioner Rhodey, I really like your idea. We have a Department of Strategic Impact. A Department of Family Impact sounds really good too, especially if there are specific program needs that need to be addressed. If I can go back to kind of the beginning, it sounds, you know, like, it sounds to me like, you know, back in September, there were some questions in that meeting about specific numbers, specific needs, things like that. And the health department, which has provided some of the funding and coordination for the Ottawa Food Program, chose not to come back to the board as requested when there was a need. They can blame, oh, it was Ottawa Food Board. They can say that up and down the street, but they are on the board, as are the other organizations that are funded in part by the county. So to Commissioner Cosby's point, we need to be able to work well in coordination and collaboration with our local nonprofits, our county partners, and looking for solutions. And instead of going straight to the media and doing media interviews, which was done, it would be much better to do as requested. It would be reasonable, be rational, come back to the finance committee, come back to the board with specific needs, since those are funded through county. If you want county dollars, taxpayer funding, you need to come back to the board that allocates them. So I look forward to receiving more information. Thank you very much. Anything else from any board members?
Yeah, I'd like to hear from Ms. Ugansky.
We have heard from Ms. Ugansky enough, but thank you,
Well,
Lisa.
I have a comment that I'd like to
Thank
make.
you for being here. Commissioner Bonema.
Thank you. Ms. Ugansky, I've got a question for you.
I have dismissed Ms. Ugansky.
Well, I would like
Who
to
has
ask a
had-
question. I know you don't have a question, but I have a question.
Oh, okay. Please come forward.
Thank you for coming back up. I know we've talked at length about this already. I'm going to keep this short, but this need was brought to us back at the September board meeting, the 26th, the 48% cut, what would likely happen because of that. Since then, we've asked for an accounting, a breakdown of what it would take to retain the coordinator position. I think it's reasonable to understand that every team that is accomplishing things needs a coach, a head,
Right.
a leader, right? And that has always been Sierra up until this point. So you have now given us the breakdown of what it would take to retain her.
Right.
That was provided to me on the 17th and other commissioners, and I have forwarded all of that information on to the rest of the commission
Right.
so that they can go through it in detail. I think it was 3 pages of detail. So
And I was
appreciate that.
aware of that. So to answer that question, why didn't we bring this information back to the board? I was aware of that. I knew the information was shared, and I knew that Commissioner Bonema was making the request to have this fully funded, to have it put on the agenda, which it wasn't.
So
So if
that
I,
would,
but just to finish.
oh, continue, please.
My request to this board in that email, back on, I think, the 17th, is that we would address the need. This is something that, as you've said multiple times, Mr. Chair, that if they came to us with this need, we would address the need. So my formal request at this point is that this motion, which was inside of my email to you on the 17th, be added to the finance meeting, which I believe is on the 5th. If we want to delay this further, I think it's unnecessary. I'm disappointed we're not dealing with this today, but I think December 5th is our next finance meeting. If you think that's appropriate, I would ask that we add this to the December 5th agenda and get it resolved.
I'm sure that you can speak to the chair of finance and ask her to add that. And as well, we'll also have more information next week before the 5th, where that will be very helpful too. Yeah. Commissioner Rhodey?
Yeah, one question. Is it the proper process historically for you when you have a request for funding for a position for you to go to Commissioner Bonema to make that request, or is it the proper process for you to take it to the budget committee for approval?
When the questions came to us from,
I'm sorry. I'm asking for historically, what is the proper process for handling a request for an employee?
historically, we haven't, I personally have not asked for funding to be restored. So that's not.
Do you know the proper process to request funding?
Yes, I know the proper process to request funding, and
Could you explain that?
that's something that,
Could you explain that, please? Just so everyone is aware.
the proper process for me is I talk with my boss, the health officer, who then talks with administration or meets with administration to discuss those concerns and those changes that are needed. And then when some of those conversations weren't happening, we did have questions from specific board members who wanted more information. So it was provided. And then right when it was provided, Health Officer Hambley also sent it to Administrator Gibbs, as has been requested in the past. And so that's what took place.
It sounds like there was actually no action request or other formal request for funding, though. It sounds like you created a PDF and sent it to Commissioner Bonema and maybe Administrator Gibbs. So it sounds to me like the proper process was not followed.
And
Commissioner Rhodey.
when are you aware of when the last finance committee met?
Yes, I'm aware.
When was
Okay.
that?
And when was that?
The exact date, I
Approximately.
can pull it up on my phone. if you want me to.
Approximately,
I
a
don't.
week ago, 2 weeks ago. Do you know when it met?
The finance committee meets at the beginning of the month, a Tuesday.
And so was this approximately around the same time that decisions were made to move Sierra from her position and decisions were made with Ottawa Foods?
Sierra had to be moved from the position effective the beginning of October because we didn't have the funding to support her in health education.
Okay, so did you have enough time then, since you were coming to that?
I didn't come back with
conclusion?
I didn't come back with a specific request because we have been waiting. We were told that we would find out soon about whether the Hudsonville office would be closing. And so we were told to wait, and I didn't come with a specific request because that was still and is still in process because we don't have an answer. If the Hudsonville office is closed, that will impact the amount of funding that we have to put towards this FTE for a 0.9, towards a 0.9 for the Ottawa Food Coordinator. And so, I mean, we've said this multiple times. You may think it's an excuse. It's the truth. It's all complicated. There are a lot of different funding pieces that go into this. And so to have a specific finance committee request when we were told to wait, that we'd be hearing soon about the closure of the Hudsonville office, that's something that I personally was waiting to get an answer on because that would impact how much additional funding we would need for this position.
Does it seem kind of final to go to the press with some final decisions?
I don't think-
prior
Go to the press.
Please wait.
prior
Please wait.
I didn't go to the press.
to going to the finance committee for a request on such a position?
I didn't go to the press. Do you have, I mean,
I'm not saying you did, but that just seems like to me a very conclusive act to take.
She
Like,
went to
you
a member
made
of the
this-
finance
Commissioner
committee.
Bonema, please.
I'm on the
wait.
finance committee. She
Commissioner
went to a member
Bonema.
on the finance committee.
Commissioner Bonema, please wait.
yeah, I have not spoken to the press about any of this.
Have other Ottawa Food Board members?
Have Ottawa Food Board members?
Right.
Yes, not public health, not anyone on my health education team. And it's nothing that, and I'm not, you said earlier, I'm blaming the Ottawa Food Board. I'm not blaming anyone. They have the right to do what they want to do, but I'm just trying to make it clear that it was not anything that I or someone in our health education team went to the press with. If it's concerns about Ottawa food funding and board members did that, they do have every right to do that, but it wasn't through the health department.
Anything additional, Commissioner Rhodey?
No, I'm good.
Commissioner Cosby?
Clarifying statement too. Did this board ask you to eliminate your educator from Ottawa Food?
Did this board ask me
Ask the health department to remove their educator from Ottawa?
from Ottawa Food? No, but the funding was taken away to do it.
What did the board say?
Say.
The board said that if you had a need, please come back and bring the need to the board. You made it clear today that you didn't have the exact numbers when that specific request was made. And then you did find out. And what you're also telling us is that last week, you had finally received all those numbers and you sent it to Commissioner Bonema instead of sending it to the chair of the finance department or the finance committee or providing it to the administrator, or whatever other proper process
I did that.
historically has been used. So I think that's what Commissioner Cosby is asking about.
And I explained
Yeah.
about the Hudsonville closure, not having,
So maybe it would be good to wait instead of rushing.
but
And
I
let
was
the,
asked for information from one of the commissioners.
and allow the process to continue. That might be good, especially since this Ottawa Food Board is essentially a collaboration of the health department with Community Action House and MSU Extension. And a lot of the
And
funding for
many
this,
other members.
this program, what I'm talking about, the advisory board, the
There's other
leadership,
members.
the
Yeah, there's
leadership
other
of it.
members.
Yeah. So the leadership of this advisory board is extremely closely connected to Ottawa County, and the funding that we're talking about for the Ottawa food program is from the county. You were specifically asked to come back with the information using the formal process, using the regular process, which did not occur. So, Commissioner Zalstra.
Yeah, I think what Ms. Wikanski is saying is that, she did indeed follow the regular process. My understanding of how that would work is that she would approach the administrator and say, we need funding for the health education related to Ottawa food. With the potential closing of the Hudsonville office, that was looked at as a potential way to fund this. They did talk to the administrator about that. The administrator told them to hold off. There would be a solution. That's November 21 now, that's 3 weeks. My understanding is that there's still no communication from the administrator to the health department about potential funding from that closure. I think commissioners have the right to bring agenda items up. We all have that right. You as chair have that right. Commissioner Vonema has that right. He saw the need, so he wanted to bring that forward. I don't think there's any problem with that. Health department followed proper procedure in reaching out to the administrator. It's been 3 weeks. I think Commissioner Vonema has the right as commissioner to bring that agenda item up. I don't know why we keep going back and forth about what is the process when we know the right step forward is to just put it on the finance agenda and discuss it then.
Do we know, it's unfortunate Administrator Gibbs isn't present, but he can address this next week if he needs to. Maybe Deputy Administrator, if you could ask, what is in the works regarding the Hudsonville office. Last I heard that there was funding available for it, and that the health department was told that, but we could also get clarity on that. That'd be helpful as well. So, all right. Thank you, Lisa. One more.
Lisa, one more question. Why did we decide that the Hudsonville office was what you would close in lieu of having an educator or funding an educator? Why Hudsonville?
Because when we were looking at provision of services, which offices I think see the most, obviously we see more people in Hudsonville or in Holland than we see in Hudsonville. I know we also looked at the Grand Haven satellite office. There's, I believe, a lease there that we still have for a few more years that we can't get out of, where the Hudsonville closure of the Hudsonville office is something that we don't have a full, like a lease that we can't get out of right now. So that would be the satellite office that we had the ability to close, and we'd still be offering pop-up sessions, I believe monthly, maybe a little bit more in the summertime. I'm not involved in the clinic as much, so I don't want to speak specifics there, but that was the idea behind that.
So we are capturing numbers, program numbers, number of community members using different programs.
Absolutely.
Good to know.
Commissioner Rhodey.
Yeah, I just have a statement. I just think that it's really important. I just want us to note that we are absolutely committed to food security here in this county, but we're not committed to dysfunction. And I think that what we've been seeing is some dysfunction in process and communication. And so we will be figuring that out. But we have a lot of excellent nonprofits working on food in the county, and we're absolutely committed to making sure that they're still able to do the great work that they do.
Dysfunction in Ottawa food, is that what meant?
Thank you, Lisa. You can take a seat, and unless there's any other discussion, then I think we've come to the end of our agenda. All right. Thank you, everyone. Call this meeting adjourned.